Another episode, another week. Um, well, we did the men last week, so this week is the ladies.
Was on your right.
All right. So,
So this week's episode is the modern woman's dating dilemma.
or dilemma, however you all pronounce it. Dilemma, dilemma,
Dilemma, tomato,
tomato,
tomato.
tomato. But they know what we're talking about,
Yes,
right?
your
Um,
problem, your dating problem,
the dating problems, issues, challenges,
etc.
etc. Right. As a reminder, guys, we are also on the three main streaming platforms, podcast platforms, right? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. So you can check us out while you're driving, while you're cooking, cleaning, whatever. You can listen to us, um, and you may pick up something that that may stand out to you and that may be applicable in your life in some way. All right. So yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So as you mentioned, bro, last week we spoke about the guys, right? And we spoke about certain things that need to be worked on,
Mhm.
certain things that need to be set in place, certain foundations,
Yeah,
right? And this week, ladies, as it's your topic, your turn, um, there's some things that they need to have as a foundation as well, right? Some things that they need to have before basically stepping out into the playing field,
yeah, definitely. Because at the end
right?
of the day, what both men and women need to understand is that neither one of us are perfect, and both genders have work to do.
Correct.
And you can't criticize the other without looking at yourself first. All right. So, again, last week we spoke about the guys. This week, ladies, is your turn. Now you have to listen with an open mind and an open heart if you want some solution. Now, if you want to live and wallow in the problems and you enjoy living in the problems, well, fine. But if you want solution, all right, I'm sure we are not the first to talk about this, and we won't be the last. And if you're getting the opinions of men on numerous occasions and you still don't believe that we have it correctly, when we're the ones that have to deal with it, well, then clearly your ego has gotten the better of you. All right, men, we're not perfect, and we're very much aware that we're not perfect. But the ladies need to be accountable in that regard as well. All right, that's just my opening monologue.
So I'd like to just recap a little bit just for the benefit of our viewers and even for ourselves, and for conversation as well, on some of the points that we spoke about last week with the men that also applies to the ladies, right? And if I'm missing anything, you could always add on, right? As usual. So we spoke about self development, right? And the importance and the need for self development. Um, so, ladies, you all are no different to the guys in that regard. Everybody, as Ron would have mentioned just now, nobody is perfect. Everybody have work to do, right, on themselves. Everybody has issues. Everybody has problems. Everybody has traumas, right? And out of mention in the previous episodes, we are not responsible for what happened to us, but we're responsible for our healing, right? And as a result of that, we can't keep going along life, both men and women, right? Um, just utilizing scapegoats, just saying, well, this one is to blame, or that one is to blame, or this or that, or whatever the case is, right? And a couple of the things as well are um, honesty, right? With self first, and the person that you intend to have some sort of relationship with, some that you could see going forward, um, etc. Right? And with that honesty, right, comes you need to know the knowing, sorry, of what you want in a mate, what you're looking for, right? So you have to know first of all if you want a long-term relationship, right, for marriage, or if you want to have fun. If you want to have fun, actually both sides, whether you want to have fun or you want to get married, right? Um, you need to communicate, right? Your intentions with the individual, right? So you can't just have somebody just tagging along, a guy just tagging along for thinking that is something going to be serious, right? And you just want to have fun. You just want to play the field, right? Um, and then again, as we would have mentioned, the only reason that dating should be for is for marriage, right? That's what it was set up for, basically, right? Um, so those are just some of the points. Just to recap again, is there anything else that I'm missing that you want to add?
One of the things that I want to add is men and women need to know their role.
Mm,
Now, when you say men and women need to know their role, it becomes controversial because women assume that I'm going to talk about some misogynistic thing about women's places in the. No, listen. Men and women were built differently. We were created for different roles, right? Men were created physically stronger and more logical to play a different role to women who were created a little more delicate and emotional, right? Men were the hunters, providers, breadwinners, and the women were nurturers, right? That does not make the man superior to the woman. I'm going to say it again. That does not make the man superior to the woman. It's just a rule, and the way in which the woman complements that role is to allow the man to play that role without opposition. I'm not saying that if the man is abusive, that you allow them to be abusive. I'm not saying if the man doesn't allow you to think for yourself and his decision is the only decision that matters. I'm not saying that either. I'm not saying to just go blindly, right? But what I'm saying is the man was built to logical and stronger so that he could lead the home in such a way to give the best possible chance of offspring to survive and thrive. This is not about superiority and inferiority. Right? There are men in history that have made and done horrible atrocities to women and children. But they are in the minority. They are not the vast majority of men. And I think women need to understand that the the initial or the first wave of feminism was not created for a supremacy competition. It was created to stop the minority of men who were abusive and inconsiderate and so on and so forth. That's what it was for. It was to give women some sort of power within their own life and within their family life, to create a certain level of equity, not equality, equity. The difference between equity and equality: equality means that regardless of your value, you deserve the same treatment and uh, reward as somebody who would have worked less.
Mm.
Equity is you are rewarded or treated based on your value. Right? So, for example, if I if I am a carpenter and I make 60,000 US a year, and another carpenter is making 300,000 US a year, I can't be annoyed that he's making 300,000 US a year until I check and see what he's doing that is allowing him to make 300,000 US a year. If when he goes to his clients, not only does he build whatever they ask him to build, but he goes way and above in his service. The experience of doing business with him is seamless, is enjoyable. His personality, right? The way in which he markets himself, all of that is the perceived value of the person. If you are not doing that and you're just focused on, okay, they asked me to build a cupboard, then I'm going to just build a cupboard. Versus the other person, okay, they asked me to build a cupboard, but I'm going to build them the last cupboard they'll ever need. One, I'm going to make sure that they understand what I'm doing. I'm going to be there on time every single day. I'm going to uh, give them professional invoicing. I'm going to make them feel comfortable having me in their home. I'm not going to call my brethren and say, come, let me go and do our work day. I'm actually going to be professional. If I have uh, people in my charge, that goes into the cost, right? So I'm professional in every way. So at the end of the year, if I make $300,000 as a carpenter, you can't get vexed because my service is better than yours.
So you're putting in the work
So you're putting
for
in the
that.
work,
Yeah.
right? Equity, as it relates to the first feminist movement, that's what initially what they wanted. It's like, I am human too, just like you, right? I deserve to have a say in what goes on with my life. I'm not stupid. I don't. I have a brain too,
Hmm.
and I'm all for that. I have no problem with that. The Third wave feminism, however, was not about equity. It's about superiority. Men are this horrible men are these horrible people. Men can't do this. Men are this. Men are there's a tyrannical patriarchy controlling the world, and
That needs to be
that
dismantled.
needs to be dismantled and so
Hmm.
on. It has no base. You're the tyrannical patriarchy you're talking about. So you're telling me that I wake up every day to oppress the women that I meet and to keep them down? Me? No. You are talking about a very small group of hyper successful, hyper powerful men who have twisted views of the world. They are not the majority of men. And they need to find that distinction. There has to be that distinction. They are not the vast majority of men. The vast majority of men actually just want to give you a compliment, like, hey, I like that dress, and nothing sexual about it.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there are the fellas who just
The
don't,
thirsty, dehydrated, and obnoxious.
and they make it bad for the men that actually don't look at women like that.
Yeah.
You know, like, yes, men think, like, all men think about sex, but time and place.
Correct. Correct.
All men think about sex. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it or anything. All men think about sex all the time, but a lot of men know the time and place. It's not every time is about sex, and it shouldn't be,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I mean, it have things to do. You gotta
Right.
make your own name. You gotta make your own legacy.
Exactly.
You have to build things,
Hmm.
and then the same things that you're working on and building, right, is also to provide for your family,
Exactly.
for women
Exactly.
and children.
Yeah. And to,
So,
to be honest, if we're being honest, a lot of the things that we do and the things that we try to build and the things that we try to accomplish is for the love and approval of women.
mhm,
It's really not for us. It's for the love and approval of women.
correct.
So that's one of the first things. So that
Well,
brings.
before you go on, um, so you mentioned the point where you mentioned about equity and equality, the difference between the two of them. And you also mentioned on that same point that there are very few men who have the mindset or they look at the world in a different way and they actually they wake up in the morning and they say, well, I gonna oppress women for the day, right?
Mm,
May not be exactly that, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's along those lines.
yeah, it's not like a conscious statement.
Right.
Like, Philip, I don't know Philip, so I just randomly say no. Philip, I'm going to, the first woman I see, I'm going to make them feel inferior to me because I am man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not like that,
Or
but
they putting you down for
yeah,
just because you're a woman.
but in the back of their mind, subconsciously, they believe that they are superior to women, and they will behave as such.
Right.
Right?
So on that same point, right, um, I think it's also important to mention um, that ladies, based on that, you can't paint everybody with the same brush.
It's not appropriate in any way. right?
Yeah, it's not appropriate.
It's not appropriate. Just like how you wouldn't want men to say like that all women unfaithful or all women obnoxious, right? Because a lot of women would shout out and say, "Well, I'm not obnoxious," right?
Hmm.
So just like that, you shouldn't say all men are dogs,
Correct.
right? And that leads me to another thing. Women are empowered now. They they've gone to university, college, they've gotten their degrees, bachelor's, masters. Some of them have the PhDs and so on. It is not a topic of discussion when dating for women. It's not a topic of discussion. Why? Men are not interested in that.
Mm. Very important point.
I'm being honest with you. Men are not interested in that. Later on, if dating becomes a relationship, right? I'm not saying don't mention it. I'm saying it is not uh is
Criterion.
not a criteria
Hmm.
to get with a man. Men don't care about that. Here's what a man cares about. If you're caring, if you're understanding, if you listen to him, if you're agreeable, obviously looks matter too, but more importantly, who you are as a woman. Certain traits, certain feminine traits are of paramount importance when it comes to dating. They want to see if you are agreeable, you're soft, you're loving, you're caring, if you love children. Because if you intend on being with a man, you have to be sure that you would like to have children and the man would like to have children.
Hmm.
So that comes back to what we spoke about last week. You need to date essentially yourself in certain ways. If you want to have children, you need to date somebody who wants to have children. Don't date somebody just because they're handsome, but they don't want to have children, and you think you could convince them to have children. You're not going to convince them. Trust me.
Again, you can't change anybody.
They can't change anyone. The only person you could change is yourself, right? So
So,
if you're dating someone and they ask you if you like children and you don't, let them know one time. Not just because they're handsome and you want to get them, you're gonna tell them you like children when you really don't.
mhm,
Because you're wasting time.
yeah. And on that same point, like, you shouldn't date for potential, right? When I say potential, again, on the same topic of change, though, okay, the guy looking real nice, he handsome and thing, he's smelling nice, etc. Right? He might have money, right? Or whatever the case is, he quote unquote grounded because he have a house, car, etc. Right? The physical things. But he's showing you a set of red flags, right? You're jumping up like if it's carnival, right? And you thinking that okay, yeah, he have all these things, but despite all them red flags that you're seeing, I could try and change him into the person that I want, right? And they might have potential, or you might think they have potential because they have those things, but it's really fleeting things.
Yeah. I wouldn't even call that potential.
Or
Like
even if they show you like a slight glimmer of something, right? It may not be the person themselves. It might just be they showing you something.
that's the thing. Like I mentioned in uh 2 episodes ago.
Mm,
If someone is nice to you, but not nice to the waiter or waitress,
Mm-hmm.
they're not a nice person. They're just being nice to you because they're on a date.
All right.
Please understand that. If you see them being obnoxious to a waitress, or they see a dog crossing the road,
Animals, yeah.
right? They have enough time to slow down and they choose to hit the dog, they're not a nice person and they may be abusive. They may be abusive.
Like, yeah, I know we know it sounds kind of weird for animals, but it it's important.
Trust me. Trust me. I'm not talking about butchers. Okay, butchers have their job to do. Right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone who sees an animal who does not have to die
Hmm.
and they kill them anyway.
Yeah. Or make it paramount that they go out of their way
Yeah,
to harm an animal.
yeah, yeah. They go out of their way to harm an animal. Yeah, or like you're talking to them on the date, and they say something like, "Listen, as a child and as a teenager, I used to enjoy pelting dogs with stones. Run for the hills because he might be abusive, right? He
Or
might be
psycho.
abusive or psycho. He enjoys pelting dogs with stones, rocks.
I've heard some stories where, as children, some guys tie up dogs
Yeah, yeah,
and basically torture them.
and torture them. Yeah, yeah.
And like, if for example they're living upstairs and the dog on the stairs and they don't really have any railing or any guard for the bottom of the railing, they're doing whatever wickedness to the animal, and the animal tied, then the animal falls off and hangs,
Hmm.
and then they're not doing anything about it. They just
Yeah,
enjoy watching the dog dangle or whatever
yeah.
animal it is.
Struggle. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those are that's not healthy at all.
Right. So don't think you could change that person. Right. You can't change that person. That person has issues. So run for the hills if you're gonna date with someone like that. Don't date based on looks or based on resources.
Hmm.
I know women date across and up the social ladder.
Right.
However, please also date for who the person is, not for what they have or how they look.
Hmm.
Date that man for who he is and not for what he has or how he looks. Right? And going back to the whole degree thing and the things, I'm like, men do not care about the degrees that you have or what car that you drive or if you have a home or homes. Those are male traits. I'm not saying you can't have them, but bringing them out in a date is something a man would do. And your job as a woman is not to try to be like a man. Your job as a woman is to be like a woman. I don't like the book Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. Act like a lady, think like a lady. Men will love you for it. The men that are trying to outsmart you, they're not they're not looking for anything serious. Right? If they're trying to outsmart you, they're not looking for anything serious. They are being selfish by doing that. Right? So don't don't try to be like a man. Don't go on a date And so, so tell me about yourself. Well, I went to school and I have two bachelor's degrees and I have a master's degree and I'm working on my PhD and I just recently bought a house and I'm looking to buy a new Mercedes Benz. And the guy would watch you like, you didn't tell me about yourself though. You, all you told me is things that you would have accomplished and things that you're working on accomplishing. Those are male traits. I didn't come on this date to date another man. I came on this date for a lady, a woman. So tell me about yourself. How do you tell a man about yourself without mentioning those things? Tell me about the things you enjoy. I always loved writing and I love traveling and that's fine. Like they will enjoy talking to you about those things. I enjoy traveling. Like I love traveling a lot. I went this place recently and sightseeing and so on. And you might even find a commonality there. Like really, I enjoy traveling too. I went so and so and so and or like one of the biggest things like a man would fall in love with you with if you mention it. So tell me about yourself. What you like to do? Well, one of my favorite hobbies is cooking. He might propose to you right there. Like what? Marry me? No. That's kind of creepy, but you get the point. The
Yeah,
point
it is creepy.
is like a is something that men like to hear. Like uh, I love to cook. I love uh, giving to charity. That would be something that you'll find out admiration for. Um, I love children. That's another thing you'll find admiration for. Um, what else? You can think of anything else? I love to dance.
Hmm.
That's another one.
Poetry, music,
Poetry, music,
painting.
painting if you have it,
Hmm.
you know. Um, I love to hike.
Hmm.
There's just hobbies, you know, things that you're passionate about, your hobbies. Because chances are you're not passionate about a degree. It's on very rare occasions people are passionate about their degree. You know, a lot of people would have done degrees, but really their passion is music or their passion is cooking. Like we know like two or three people who did engineering degrees and ended up becoming chefs.
Yeah.
So don't mention the degrees. Chances are it's not something you're passionate about.
Unless your degree aligns with that.
Unless their degree aligns with passion. Like there are a few people whose degree aligns with their passion. Right. But a lot of us have degrees that not
Yeah.
aligned with our passion. So talk about your passions. If you enjoy cooking, good. If you enjoy hiking, good. If you enjoy fashion and doing your hair or whatever it is, whatever you're passionate about, that is what you talk about on a date with a man. Don't talk about what you have.
Hmm.
The man that is intrigued by what you have is planning to mooch off of you, right? They're going to allow you to spend money on them.
Correct.
While in the near or not too distant future, they will use that same money on a side piece. They'll spend that same money on a side piece. They'll drive the side piece in your car. They'll bring the side piece to one of your homes.
Hmm.
Okay, so don't lead with the things that you have.
And as we're on the topic of that, bro, like you mentioned, a guy doesn't want to go on a date with another guy,
Exactly.
right? Um, so so therefore, women should not try to be like men, right? And you mentioned the book Think Like a Woman,
Act like a lady, think like a
right?
man.
That. Um, and I think, as I would have mentioned in a previous episode as well, two man rats can't live in the same hole,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
For international audience, what that means is essentially the same thing. A guy does not want to be with another guy, right? For those already in relationships, this translates to, for example, if a guy comes home, right? If a man comes home from work, right? He does not want to have, after competing and basically fighting with the outside world in the job that he just came from, or basically anything outside the public, right? He doesn't want to come home to have to fight with you, right? He doesn't want to come home to basically minor things that you're just arguing about and you're nagging him about or anything like that, right? Um, he doesn't want to come home to basically fight a war. I'm sure you all have heard the phrase that says, be a man's peace, right? That just simply means do not create an environment at home that breeds chaos, that breeds war, that breeds conflict, right? Because you're just asking for trouble,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And that peeves, like absolutely peeves a man,
Right.
right?
And for those of you who are religious, the Bible says, and I quote, "It is better to dwell in a corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house." Bible. Okay?
Repeat this the scripture again, the verse, and where it came
Tis,
from.
tis better. Proverbs 21 verse 9. "'Tis better to dwell in a corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house."
That is in a corner of the roof on top.
Right, in the corner of the roof on top. Rain falling and
Rain falling,
right?
lightning flashing, thunder
Lightning, thunder
going.
rolling, the place dark. Right? A continually dropping in a very rainy day and a contentious woman are alike.
Cheese and ages.
Proverbs 27:15.
Wow.
So
Problems always. That is problems always.
always. So now they probably would ask, so how do I get my husband to do things that I need him to do? Well, it's all about how you say what you say. You're not going to get your husband to do what you want him to do if, as soon as he gets home from a hard day's work or from looking for a new job, because we know how the economy is and people are losing their jobs, and there are a lot of people on the breadline, even if they have their degree, and they're going out looking for jobs. So the
Mhm.
last thing you want to do after you've been to 11 interviews for the day is to come home
Or
to
in traffic.
in traffic, is to
Hmm.
come home to hear, I thought I told you to do this, and you don't do this, and you're always forgetful, and I can't understand.
And you leave wares in the
And
sink
you leave
before you
where's in the
leave and
sink
thing.
before you
And
leave.
you expect me to wash it?
he is going to turn right around and walk back out. And he's going to go by the bar and sit down and have a few drinks. And then when he thinks he fell asleep, then he's going to come back home. That's for the ones that are faithful.
Mhm. And then that happens over
Over
and
and over
over
and
and
over
over
and
again.
over. So,
And then when wait before you go on, the guy comes home, right? He said, "Oh, so you went out, you think and think and think, and you thought I would be sleeping." And you see that?
my head hurting.
Yeah, that is headache. That is headache.
So, how to get around that? How to get your husband or your significant other to do what you need them to do? He had a long day and he may have forgotten. You could see that he didn't bring what you asked him to bring. Because chances are when men get something, they usually take it out of the car one time. They don't come in without it,
Hmm.
right? They see him dropping the couch or something, or dropping a chair or something. All you say is, at first you ask him how the day was. That's the first thing. How was the day? The next thing you ask, or the next thing you say is, I know the day was tough for you. It was difficult. And you probably may have forgotten. Right? And that's okay because I know it was tough. And immediately he would be like, oh gosh, sorry, I really forget to get it in. And all you have to say is, I understand. It was tough. Right?
Hmm.
But take a rest. And if you get up before wherever closes,
Hmm.
we could go together and get it.
Yeah.
Your husband is going to love you even more because you understand and you're agreeable. And trust me, he'll reciprocate that
Correct.
for you.
That little that little thing.
It's called tact. The way in which you say something.
Yes.
I'm not saying you can't talk about something that's bothering you, but the way in which you talk about it makes all the difference.
And it goes a very
And it
long
goes
way.
a very long way. Shouting at a man after maybe he has been shouted at in work. His
Hmm.
boss is stupid and shouts at him for quarrels with him for literally nothing. And he just has to take it. Why? Because things are tough and he needs the job.
Yep.
The last thing he would want is to come home to more quarreling.
Or he's been told on the job, "You're lucky to have a job in this time."
Exactly. The last thing he would want when he gets home is more headache.
Hmm.
So you see, that's where the love and the understanding and the care and the softness that is of paramount importance in a relationship, in a marriage.
Yeah, that right there is gold.
That right there is gold. You want to see a man be a man, you be soft and you be caring. You show him that you care. Right? Even if he lets his ego get the better of him and he's doing things that you don't like, this is what you tell him. I appreciate what you do for our family, but I don't like what you're doing right now. And there's so much that I can take. And I need you to understand that I can't deal with what is so and so and so. And again, the tone has to be a particular way. Trust me, you say that in a soft tone, whatever it is that he's doing, whether it is a side woman or he's liming too much or whatever it is,
Hmm.
the reality check is going to be so crazy.
Yeah.
Right now, that's meant that makes sense because right now we have a pandemic in manhood
Mm. Way
where there's
before
none.
COVID
Yeah,
19.
before COVID-19,
Long before COVID
where
19.
there's literally no manhood. Right, women are struggling too. Right, I'm not
Yeah.
talking to you from a place of perfection or stability. Right, we have our problems too, but I'm telling you that even though it's difficult to change the generation of men right now, it is possible to put things in place to breed another generation of men that are more stable, are more responsible, and can and will do right by their families.
And no, it is not too late,
No, it isn't too late.
but it's important that we put things in place for the change to happen.
Hmm. So, ladies, in dating, before we even get to the date, the first thing you need to do, as Nick said, you need to be honest with yourself. You need to know where you are in life. Do you embody femininity? That's the first thing. Do you embody femininity? I'm not saying don't go for your degrees and so on. Be successful. Everyone has ambition in some way. If you are passionate about getting that degree, fine. Don't get it just because you need a job. But if you're passionate about it, fine. Go do that. But make your femininity equally important. That's the first thing. Be honest with what you want. You want marriage? Well, then there are certain traits that a wife must have, and that actually makes me think of another thing I've been seeing on social media: women doing this kind of reel in a sense, or TikTok, whatever, where like their boyfriend would have asked them for like to make him a sandwich or something, and
Mm.
she says, um, I'm sorry, that is in the wife package. In order for you to get a sandwich, you'll have to upgrade from the girlfriend package to the wife package.
Mm.
And I find it funny because you don't hear men saying changing tire is the husband package. You'll have to upgrade from the boyfriend package to the husband package in order to change a tire, or in order to check your oil, or in order to wash your car,
Or to do any household things
or or
around the
to or
house.
to fix the pipe in
Handiwork,
the,
yeah.
you know, or to change the hinges on the door. You don't hear boyfriends saying, um, "I am on you're on the boyfriend package. You need to upgrade to the husband package." So why
Mm.
is it like, you see? That's where the double standard is.
Yeah.
You know, like you if your boyfriend hanging out and you need him to come home. You want him to drop everything and come home. But if you're out with your girlfriends and he calls you and tells you he needs you to come home, and you say, I'm not your maid, I'm not your slave, I'm hanging out, figure it out yourself. Yeah. There are a lot of fellas now that will take that. Well, I'm saying it right now. I ain't taking that.
I don't mean.
I'm
I
not.
don't
I'm,
mean.
I'm not. I'm not going through that.
No.
Like, you want to be treated like a queen. You need to treat your significant other like a king.
Correct.
I'm not saying if the person don't deserve it, you're just gonna do it anyway. No.
Right.
But if the person is doing the things, doing husband things, or whatever you call it, 'cause I don't even know what it is. Like, you're in a relationship. You're in a relationship with the intention to get married. That's what relationships are supposed to be for. If the person is doing what he's supposed to do in his relationship, then equally you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do in your relationship as a woman.
Mm.
It's that simple. Why have to make it so complicated? And that's where my whole shtick with third wave feminism comes in. It's like you want a man to be a man, but you be a woman on your terms. But a man had to be a man all the time.
Yeah.
But you only a woman on your terms. Like, I don't see the logic. I don't see how it's fair. It doesn't seem fair to me. That doesn't seem fair to me.
Hmm.
You want a man to do all the things that a man is supposed to do, provide and protect and so on. But you don't want him to lead. That's the only one you don't want him to do. You want him to provide and protect, but you don't want him to lead.
Mm. You don't want them to be a man.
You don't want him to be a man.
Yeah.
You want him to lead. Right? And then you only want to be a woman when it's convenient to you.
So there are expectations. Everybody has expectations, right? With
Mm-hmm.
men and women.
Mm-hmm.
There are reasonable ones
Mm-hmm.
and there are
Un-
unreasonable ones.
exactly.
And that what you just mentioned there is a very unreasonable one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You can't expect a man to be a man without him being a leader. Now, yes,
If you.
there are the few that are not leaders and so on, right? And there are women who prefer to be with men like that. But you can't be an alpha female and try to out alpha an alpha male.
Two man rat.
If you're alpha female and you end up with a beta male, well, that's fine because the dynamic will work.
Hmm.
But you can't be an alpha female and try to out alpha male. You'll always get challenged. Always. There will be no backing down. So you need to know what kind of female you are. If you do not like to be subordinate to a man's leadership, well, you need to find a man that you could lead, which is fine. There are men who like assertive women. They,
They like
they,
to be led.
they like to be led by a woman,
Hmm.
which is fine. But if you are that kind of woman, do not try to date an alpha male unless you're willing to submit to his alphaness. Yeah.
You know, a lot of women don't like the word submit, as you just mentioned.
Yeah, and again, submit does not. Oh gosh, I
So
have to
let's
explain.
please
Let me explain that.
explain that.
So when I say the word submit, okay,
Because even in the Bible talks about
yeah.
submission, this
So
submission.
yeah, so let's talk about the word submit. When women hear the word submit, this is what they think: I can't speak. I have no say. I do not have a mind of my own. I cannot uh, give an opinion. I cannot make a choice on my own. I have to do everything he says. I have like essentially you're a slave.
Mm,
That's what they assume it is. That's not what it is, right? It is deferring leadership to the man as long as he deserves it. I'm not saying defer your leadership to no, as I like to say, Shum Shalom's man. A Shum Shalom's
always,
man
man.
is a waste man or a deadbeat or a scrubber,
Hmm.
right? That's trying to go through all of the international terms,
Yes.
right? Or there's another one. There's another one. In Brazil, Assado Beiros. You submit to a man's leadership if he deserves it, if he has vision for himself and for his future family. You allow him to lead. You allow him to lead. Nothing is wrong with that. That doesn't mean that you don't have a say in what's going on.
Mm.
You're his wife. You're by his side. You have a say. That's not what we're saying.
And a good man, with a good man, you will always have a say.
So a good man will always give his woman a say. She- Her opinion will always be valued, right? That's where true leadership is. Leadership is not about telling someone what to do. It's not about telling someone what to do. It's about finding the right way or the most efficient way to move toward a goal. And a true leader, a man who is strong in his leadership, will never feel threatened by the opinion of a woman. He will embrace her opinion. And women need to understand that. So the whole submission thing, like there are men that really, really overdo the submission thing. And what they really mean is like they just want you to shut up
And do everything that
and
they
and
say
do everything
without
that they say
opposition
without
or yeah.
opposition. Right? We're not saying to do that. We ask for agreeableness. Agreeableness. That doesn't mean to hush and say yes to everything that we say.
If you could just give like a brief explanation of what agreeable means.
Okay. So if let's use the most famous thing. Food.
Mm, a food run.
A food run. Okay. Demand. Babe, what you want to eat? I don't know. Anything? Okay, let's go for McDonald's. I don't want that. Okay, what do you want then? Anything you pick. Okay, how about Chinese? No, I'm not feeling for Chinese. Okay, then what it is that you want? You pick anything. Okay, how about barbecue? Nah. So what is it that you want? Anything, babe. That is an example of non-agreeableness. If you don't know what it is that you want to eat, then there shouldn't be a problem when he decides on what they're going to eat. No, I don't have that problem. I don't have that problem. But a lot of guys have that problem. Like your significant other, your lady, your wife, they don't know what they want to eat. You suggest something, they say they don't want that. Then you ask them what they want again, they say they don't know anything. But if it's anything, then the suggestion should be okay.
Right.
But when you give the suggestion, they don't want it. Right? That's a simple example of agreeableness. If you don't know what it is, like allow them to pick. Nothing wrong with that. So here's what happens to. She doesn't want the McDonald's. You buy McDonald's. She eats from your McDonald's. I thought you said you didn't want McDonald's.
Mm-hmm. But McDonald's fries would be so nice and salty, especially when it's hot.
But then you should have said that you wanted McDonald's.
But it tastes better when when it comes. When it's not mine, it just tastes better. It tastes better when
Right.
you buy it. When I eat it from you.
Exactly. So now let's get that.
Mm,
But there's still decisiveness.
right,
Right? I still get the I could taste it from you.
right.
I still get that.
But it can't be so all the time.
But it can't be like
It
that
can't
all
be all
the
the
time.
time.
Yeah,
No,
it's not
yeah,
all the time though. Right? It's not all the time. But I get it.
yeah.
But which is fine.
Of course,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
But don't tell me you don't know what you want to eat. Right?
And then when I make a
And then when I
suggestion,
make a suggestion,
you say, nah,
you
I
say
don't want
no,
that.
you don't want that. And then when I buy that and then I carry you to get something else, you don't want what it is that you eventually get, but you want the thing that I suggested in the first
Mm-hmm.
place.
Correct.
And you don't understand. Like, let me explain something to you, ladies. Men are decisive when it comes to things like food. We know exactly what it is that we want. And when you're indecisive, it doesn't help. And because we want to get this as fast as possible,
Mm-hmm.
we're hungry, we want to get food as fast as possible. So you can't be indecisive. And then when we decide on what it is that we want, and you don't want that initially, and then when we go and get something that you say that you want, and then you don't want that, and you leave it, and then you come and you eat ours, then it's like a male is a masculine pet peeve across the board. If you're indecisive, well, then allow us to be decisive. It solves all the problems in the world. If you want, if you don't know what you want, well, then we're going for McDonald's. I don't want McDonald's. I can't get for you still, right? I'll get it for you still. But I don't want McDonald's. I'll get for you still.
You're saying that no.
You're saying it? No. I'll get for you still. So I'm not saying to not be indecisive, but allow the man to be decisive. That's where the agreeableness comes in, right? If you have an idea, you are very much entitled to your idea. Bring it to your husband, bring it to your boyfriend. You are entitled to that, right? Men who can't uh, accept an idea from his significant other, he have insecurities that he needs to fix. He has insecurities that he needs to fix. We could go on and on with this topic. Man. We could go
Before,
on and on.
I want to mention something that we would have, or at least touch on something we would have touched on our past episode. Um, what about the women who see themselves as, oh, sorry, who claim to be self proclaimed queens? I know we mentioned briefly about deserving, but is on the man side. What about the woman, the lady side?
Oh, there's another episode, eh? Like we could talk about that. That topic alone
Hmm.
could be another episode. But
Yeah, I know it's
but
a lot.
to talk briefly about it.
Yeah, because why I mentioned that is that there's a trend now of women who consider themselves as tens, right? You know, we like to use the scale of comparing, and I've seen some videos just this week where um, guys would have asked women what they consider themselves, and they all would have said tens, right? And then when he asked them whether they think they are perfect, or either asked them or made some statement, he would have said, "Well, do you think you're perfect?" And they would have said no, right? And then he would have asked them again, "Well, why do you say you're 10? Because 10 means you're perfect, right?" And there was another guy commenting saying that, yeah, these ladies think they're tens, right? And there's no room for growth, right? There's no need for room for growth. And so let's talk a little bit about that. You know, I know not into too much detail because as I said,
Mm,
we're going to another topic. I
mm,
mean, another episode on this.
mm.
But yeah, just to basically talk about that. And also to touch on the point of the bad bitch mindset, or the um in strong independent ladies.
Yeah. Um, we have a situation where third wave feminism has made it seem as though women are perfect and they don't need, they are immune to criticism, and they are immune to self development. And until we understand and we get to the point that we acknowledge that that neither gender is perfect, we will always have problems because the women think they're perfect and they think the men are not.
Hmm.
And it's almost, it's almost like a psychological ailment now, because again, they think, like I mentioned before, they're queens. They put themselves on their own pedestal that they think they deserve, and they have no uh, purpose or no reason to come off of it. They are immune to criticism. They are immune to uh, being checked, in a sense. Everything about them,
Accountability.
accountability, everything is perfect. So and those ladies, they will always have relationship problems because they go into the relationship thinking that they have to train a man or teach a man how to treat them. I don't have to, you don't have to teach me how to treat you. I can figure it out. I'm not stupid, but hey,
Hmm.
like I said, this could um, go on for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah,
But I think we could stop the conversation here for now.
yeah. I just want to end by saying, because I've heard it before, and a couple people, both men and women, but I've heard it more from the ladies, at least based on my interactions, right? That, and you and I would have spoken about this as well, that everybody has narcissistic traits,
Mhm.
right? And they're all to different degrees, different levels. It's just, and some people, some even just by denying that everybody has that is a narcissistic trait as well, right? Because you're not you're not willing to hear, you're not open to see a different point of view, or to maybe learn, or to introspect, and take a look deeper into yourself, and see what traits there could be, etc., etc., right? And yeah, so there are, everybody does have narcissistic traits. And I raised the point because, again, I would have mentioned just now that I've heard it from quite a number of women who don't seem to think that that's the case.
Most narcissists don't think they're narcissists.
And that's
So,
the next thing.
so
So yeah, so we'll end the conversation here, right? So thanks again for joining us, guys. Thanks for all your support, right? All your likes, your shares, and your continued support in whichever ways that you all have done so far, and you all will continue to do. Just remember that we are still on um, the three major podcasting platforms, so that you all can catch us during your commute to work, whether you're doing something else, bathing, even showering, that is, cooking, cleaning, etc. Right? So we are on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, right? So
okay, guys. So thank you again. It was a nice conversation again. Um, see you again next week.
we'll see you again next week.
Take care.
Take care.